What is the first Vaporwave album, song, or project ever made? A tricky question indeed. It's a question that must take into account what are the agreed, subjective, and objective building blocks of the genre. And once we can find an album that virtually hits all or almost all of those attributes, then and only then do I think we can come into agreement on who really did it first. From taking a look at the mental pictures an album can bring us to in our mind, its ability to warp us to this other place entirely, or the aesthetics accompanying the album by the artwork of the album, and a jumble of other factors, the first Vaporwave album is also a question that seems to come up time and time again in the community with discussion, and for good reason, as I and many others really do seem to enjoy digging into the past, sorting through the hundreds and thousands of Vaporwave releases to see if we can ever really get to a universally agreed originator of the Vaporwave sound and aesthetic. So today I want to take you and I back to the past. We're going to go far back and we're going to see if we can conclude what is the first ever piece of Vaporwave music. But before we do, please hit that like button and consider subscribing if it is your first time here. I drop at least one new video a week. Would love to have you in the fam. Alright, so for newcomers of the genre, it is super easy to fall into the assumption that Macintosh Plus's Floral Shop was the first to ever do it. And it's okay, looking at it from a first glance, most of us, even myself, will refer to it as like the holy grail of the genre, an album that spearheaded the sound, artists, and community into a bigger picture. And while in 2019 we're not some big gigantic musical force to be reckoned with or anything crazy like that, but before Mac Plus put out Floral Shop, Vaporwave pretty much wasn't even really a thing. I mean, it was, as we'll talk about today, but in regards to labeling and referring to the genre as Vaporwave and having a whole community to resonate with, Floral Shop was a big player in making that the household name for whatever our artists were creating. It was an album that created a sense of direction for future artists who wanted to take part in the creation process of Vaporwave production. Hence, it is very easy to recognize this as possibly the first Vaporwave album ever made. Floral Shop came out all the way back in 2011, and while that was definitely extremely early in the Vaporwave timeline of releases, doing a bit more searching, you can begin to find a variety of other projects, albums, songs, you name it, that came out before our pink and black checkerboarded hero. These pieces of music were also doing what we would consider to be Vaporwave today. On October 2nd, 2010, the internet was introduced to a mysterious, ominous-looking album titled Skeleton by an artist of the same name. Skeleton contains a dreary, dreadful, and creepy 11 tracks that are simply produced but powerful with the tones and themes it conjures up. We find Skeleton bending samples by diving the pitch down and then jolting it back up, aggressively dragging the tempo back and forth, and using the automation of filters laying upon these tracks to go in and out of wet and damp, reverb-heavy escapades. And I absolutely love this creepier side of Vaporwave, albums that make you feel like you've stumbled upon something you weren't supposed to hear, like it's gonna give your computer a virus or something. That side of Vaporwave emotions, songs that evoke these hopeless, vast habitats shrouded in emptiness, are, in my opinion, some of the strongest narratives pushed in the Vaporwave scene. Some super powerful stuff, and to be honest, in regards to a sound and aesthetic that promotes those types of feelings, Skeleton really was pretty much the first one to ever give us those nightmarish vapor settings brought to life by music. Come on, from the album cover, where it looks like some ancient pyramid in the middle of the night, and the abundance of once royal and ruling kings have awoken from their mummified corpses, emitting this fog of energy around the base of the pyramid. Like, come on, that's some creepy shit. That's some creepy shit. Look at that thing. I love the dulled out colors and textures on this thing as well. The ever so slightly off looking resolution to give it that classic lo-fi feeling. Skeleton really hits the head on the nail as being one of the first albums to ever do it, with a multitude of reasons backing it up. But, we gotta dig a little further, baby. Let's dig back even more and see what we can find. So many of y'all will recognize this bad boy right here, right away. Daniel Lopatin's Chuck Person's Echo Jams Volume 1. Echo Jams Volume 1 came out in August of 2010, a couple weeks before Skeleton and over 15 months earlier than Floral Shop. Another interesting thing to note here is that the construction of Echo Jams Volume 1 actually began back in 2009. Vaporwave is like 10 years old already. In regards to a traditional Vaporwave sound and aesthetic, Echo Jams Volume 1 is impossible to avoid as an OG killer, an album that can be referred to as one of the concretely oldest relics we have to go back on. Sporting Vaporwave tropes we've come to know and love for years now, from rambunctious delay and echoing, a looping of the same goddamn sample chop over and over and over, getting smokier and cloudier by the minute as the samples begin to mesmerize your every sense. Daniel Lopatin really did create something unique for the time and did not even realize what that innocent 15-track album would end up leading to for an entire musical community. Pretty crazy. The album contains what Daniel Lopatin referred to as echo jams, sample-based, looped audio pieces which typically chop up micro excerpts of 80s pop songs or other forms of popular music and slow them down with effects such as echo, pitch shifting added in a manner reminiscent of chopped and screwed styles, aka pretty much what you and I would pretty much called Vaporwave. Echo Jams Volume 1 has come to not only be referred to as the original Don Corleone of the Vaporwave genre, but an absolute fan favorite. It's one of those classic albums in the scene that, while it might have not aged incredibly due to some of the killer stuff we have today compared to the simple Echo Jams tactics, there is without a doubt an angelic charm to the manipulated selection of pop samples Lopatin used on here to give us a world where our audio is fed to us deep beneath the surface of the ocean water, a natural decaying of the sound waves as they constantly crash into our ears in a aquatic heaven we have found ourselves in. And artwork wise, do I gotta even explain? Echo Jams Volume 1 does it all. That collage of mishmashing video game design work, battling with outdated typography norms, stuff we just love to cook and eat up in the Vaporwave game. Without this album right here, and the inspiration it created for many of the artists to come, who knows how different the genre would be today with this beast. But what if I told you we can go even further back? The date is July 19th, 2009. Over a year before Echo Jams Volume 1 was brought upon the internet, Daniel Lopatin releases this track under the name Sunset Corp, a 2-minute and 4-second loop of one tiny little section in the Chris de Burgh song The Lady in Red, which I somehow haven't heard before. It has 35 million views on YouTube when I checked, and a multitude of old people in the comments wishing they can go back in time or reminiscing about their wedding song. Yep, the perfect type of Vaporwave sample. The song was uploaded onto the Sunset Corp YouTube page and is complemented by this lonely rainbow road that seems to go on forever and ever and ever, just like the song. Trust me, if you haven't heard it yet, go check it out. Even though it's only 2 minutes long, it will feel like you're listening to it for 15 minutes. There's something about this goddamn sample that just buries itself in your ears and slows down time. It's like you were granted access to drive around the Rainbow Road level of Mario Kart 64, only if the after hours and all the other characters have gone home. The neon lights of those Nintendo character faces, they're all shut off now, revealing the backdrop of a city asleep. One comment on YouTube describing the feelings of these 2 minutes as being stuck in a shopping mall for eternity as a child in the toys section, hearing that music on the PA system, and being unable to leave by forces you can't fathom, and also wanting to be there because of the strange feeling of comfort, nostalgia, and numbing pleasure it provides to your ears. When compounding aesthetics, sound, and everything else we can absorb from the Vaporwave genre, I can't really argue that this isn't the first to ever truly do it. This one specific song really does seem to take the trophy for the first ever Vaporwave piece. It's Vaporwave before Vaporwave, the rawest form of it too, like literally just one sample flooded in reverb, played over and over for 2 minutes straight. It's super cheap, and like that's like one of the things that makes a lot of Vaporwave great. Some of it's so cheap and I just love it. It doesn't get more bare bones than that, ladies and gents, and listening to this thing is like finding some expired cereal in the back of your pantry. Yeah, it might not be the best for your digestive system, and all those sugary marshmallows in the bag might have gone stale and dull, but sometimes curiosity takes the wheel and there's never anything else to eat. You know when everyone in your house goes on like Weight Watchers but no one eats it, right? So they flood the closet, so you gotta dig in the back and then you find that expired cereal. That's what this is. So this track, in regards to filling out the checklist of what Vaporwave seems to be, really does take the cake as the first ever in my eyes and ears. I can't really argue it. But what about projects, albums, or songs that have done similar things Vaporwave artists do that came out way before this song? I mean, I'm sure we can find instances of people slowing and pitch shifting things and looping things, right? Well, that opens up a whole other can of worms, and that musical discussion I'll save for another day, because if that's the case, we can really go back for years and years on seeing what maybe isn't necessarily the first Vaporwave project ever in a literal sense of the term, but music that has definitely heavily inspired or has done extremely similar things to what Vaporwave producers have done over the past couple years, but way before. You know what, if you want to see me do a video like that in the near future and explore some of those albums myself, a lot of them would be for the first time too. Let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear your thoughts. Also, let me know of any other Jurassic and old Vaporwave albums or songs you know about as well. Would really love to see what has come out in that era of releases. It's really cool to go back and hear some of these releases before a name was even coined for the genre. Much love, your boy, Chennington.